Hey everybody, thanks for clicking the link and checking out the Big Bang Bristol podcast. My name's Alex Todd and I'll be coming to you fairly regularly from here in beautiful Bristol, Virginia, the birthplace of country music, or as Johnny Cash once called it, the Big Bang of country music. The podcast series is going to focus on a lot of people I know, musicians and people I've been friends with for a long time. Also going to try to introduce myself and you to some people I don't know and tell some stories. Maybe gain some insight into the creative process. You know, we've got a lot of really diverse musical talent here in the area. We have a lot of singer-songwriters, guitar players, instrumentalists. We have bluegrass, blues, some heavy rock, and even a few guys out there doing some experimental music. The coffee's brewed, the mics are hot, the guests are booked. This week on the Big Bang Bristol podcast, my longtime friend and accomplished guitar player, Storm Rowlett. All right, let's get started. Hey, man.
What's up?
How you been?
Pretty good.
That's good. Yeah, first thing is I want to thank Jesse Anderson of Newark, Delaware for the Big Bang Boogie, and that was the theme song music that you heard under the intro there. So what's up, man? What you been keeping yourself busy with?
Right now I'm working on my main project is my band Slumber. We're like alternative rock kind of thing. Think like A Perfect Circle, Tool, that kind of jam.
Yeah, I got your. You sent me the EP, man. That was really good. Those are some good songs.
Yeah, we've actually got about 14 songs right now that we're working on. We've got the EP has the first four we wrote, but we've kind of moved on from that style. We're more into the atmospheric kind of stuff. We're not as, I don't want to say generic rock, but we're moving more towards more experimental type of things.
Yeah, I mean you just started, so
yeah,
you're already changing. Cool. So who else is in the band with you?
So it's obviously it's me as the lead guitarist. My friend Troy Gamblin is our rhythm guitarist. He's been a friend of mine for years and years. Our bassist is Will Netherton Rand. He's from Blacksburg area, and he's been in a ton of bands. Our drummer is Grant Clemens. He's also been in a ton of bands. He was in Anthony Wayne's band, another local musician from around here. He was in Earth by Train.
Yeah, actually, I played in Earth by Train a little bit for about a year, probably.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah. Grant was in the band. I can't remember the exact years, but he's a Bristol native. I'm sure that some of the people in this area listening to the podcast will definitely know who he is.
Yeah.
And then our lead singer is Heather Sizemore, and it's actually her first project. She's our vocalist, and this is her very first thing she's ever done musically, so it's kind of interesting to, go back and look at it through the eyes of somebody who's never been in a band before. 'Cause she has all these questions that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're just like she's asking us stuff that all of us other musicians who have been in bands for years have no clue about. We've been doing it for so long. It's just not even something we think about.
It's almost second nature at this point.
Yeah.
So I take it she's pretty young then.
Yeah, she's 20. She turned 20 in July, I think. So.
Yeah, she's got some good pipes. So I was definitely impressed by her singing on the EP. She's it's almost like when I was listening to it, it's almost like you guys were creating this real heavy bass on top of her, and she's kind of like angelic floating on top of it. So yeah. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's definitely what we were going for. Is kind of like almost like a counterpoint to what we as the musicians are doing. We don't want everything to be on the same waveform. We want them to be separate and to provide different musical atmospheres at the same time, kind of thing.
Well, you're definitely achieving that, man. I was like I said, I was very impressed by the EP, and I can't wait to hear the whole album when it comes out. Are you gonna put all 14 on the full album, or is what's the plan for that?
So what we're gonna do is it's kind of a convoluted thing we're doing. It's we're doing the first EP. It's called Soma, and then we're gonna do a second EP of another 4 songs. We're gonna call it Psyche. And then I think the full length we're going to do, it's going to be From Soma to Psyche, and it's going to have new versions of the same songs and then 5 new songs.
Cool, man. So are you guys gigging out yet? Or are you still in the beginning process?
We played one show so far. We played at Pikeview Lounge in Beckley. We opened for A Light Divided, and that was really awesome. We're honestly just trying to find venues that are supportive of different kinds of music. That's kind of been the issue, is finding a venue that's not 3.5 hours away from us.
And you're actually not in Bristol. You're in Wytheville, right?
Yeah, the whole band is based out of Wytheville, Virginia. We all live there except for Will, and I've lived pretty much in the area for the better part of a decade.
Where'd you grow up at?
I grew up in all over. I traveled a lot when I was a kid, but I hail from Richlands, Virginia, in Tazewell County. But I moved to Wytheville pretty early in my life, and we kind of settled there for a while.
What do your folks do?
My mom is she's in college. She's got a master's. She's working on her master's and her doctorate at the same time, I think, in criminal justice and psychology, respectively.
Cool.
And my dad is a retired magistrate for Pulaski County, and now he does real estate type stuff, and he just kind of hangs out, really.
Yeah.
And he's a musician too. I come by it pretty honest. He was in tons of bands from the time he was a teenager.
Is he a guitar player, or what does he do?
He's a bassist and a drummer. He likes playing bass better than he likes playing drums, and I think he kind of got forced into the drummer role pretty early on because they're in very, very high demand everywhere.
When I was in college, I played guitar, and I was taking jazz band one semester, and I walk in the first day of class, and I look around at all the other people that are playing, and I'm thinking, man, I'm probably the worst guitar player here. So when the instructor walked in, he said, all right, I need a volunteer for upright bass and for drums. So I raised my hand, and I volunteered for upright bass. And so one night we were having rehearsal, which is the rhythm section, and the guy stopped what he was doing. He said, listen, guys, he said, I know these aren't your chosen instruments, but if you stick with it, there's always a demand for drum and bass out there. He said, you'll always find a gig as a drummer or a bass player. And so I found that to be true. I've had a pretty, semi-successful career as a bass player. I've always at least been able to keep a gig,
Yeah, actually, I picked up bass and kind of learned a few things when I was about 16, and then I didn't really take it seriously. And then when I was 22, I actually picked it back up again and was like, I need to learn, fundamentals and actually how to play the instrument. And I learned how to slap and play blues scales and all that good stuff, and some jazz bass. And honestly, I've had more people ask me about playing bass than guitar, even though everybody knows me in the area as a guitarist. People still are like, hey, do you also play bass? So that's very true. The demand is there.
Yeah, guitar players are a dime a dozen.
You're right.
It seems like it. It's always nice to find somebody that can do both. Okay, so since your dad was a musician, I would imagine that there was probably guitars and pianos and stuff around the house, right?
Well, so my dad actually didn't really talk to me very much when I was a kid. My mom and my dad had a really messy divorce. It was gross, but yeah. So I actually independently decided to play guitar separate from all that stuff, and I guess I was about 14, and I was in my little angsty, rebellious teenage stage, and I was listening to Nirvana all the time, and I was like, I want to be Kurt Cobain, but fat, and because even then I knew I was like, I'm not going to lose this weight. It's not going to happen. So. I was like, yeah, I need to learn to play guitar, and I begged and pleaded my mom for Christmas that year to get me, no shit, an Esteban HSN special, and that was my first guitar. Was
nice. Well, hey, you got it. I take it.
Oh yeah, she got it for me, and I mean, I didn't know it at the time, but obviously it was not ideal.
Yeah, it's hard to start on a lower grade instrument because they're just so hard to play.
Yeah, it was kind of cool in a way because it was like it had like a Les Paul style body, but it had Strat pickups in it, so it kind of sounded unique. But of course, I wanted to play Nirvana and like System of a Down and stuff like that, and single coils don't really get you there. So
yeah, it doesn't really give you the tone you're looking for. So was it 3 singles or just 2?
It was 3. It was like a Strat setup.
So you had like the 5-way with the out of phase kind of deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
well, that's pretty neat, man.
It was cool, and I didn't appreciate it for what it was. Like, if I could go back now and be like, dude, just learn some blues stuff, man. Like, learn some Stevie Ray Vaughan. And I tried to teach myself to play at first from tab books and stuff, and I learned Smells Like Teen Spirit was the first song I ever learned, of course, and I learned a few other things, and I didn't know anything about anything. Like, I knew nothing about chords and scales, and I didn't even know what the names of the strings were. So I learned some stuff from Guitar World's tab books, and then I got like an Andy Alador DVD one time and learned some stuff from it. But I realized, like, I'm not doing what I want. I can't solo. I can't use my pinky finger. I saw these guitarists using their pinky finger, and I was like, how do you do that?
What is that? How are you doing that?
Yeah. So I got guitar lessons, and you were my guitar teacher. And then
sorry, man, I probably owe you some money.
Nah.
No refunds.
No, it's cool, man. You taught me, honestly, like, not only like the guitar stuff that you actually taught me, like the theory, but the music that you got me interested in at the time was probably just as important to my like musical knowledge and my play style, because I didn't know anything about like Bob Dylan. Like I was like, that's old people music.
Yeah, right.
Who likes that crap?
Your grandma music.
Yeah, but that and Stevie Ray Vaughan and George Thorogood and all these classic guitarists that a lot of people grow up listening to, but that was never my jam when I was a little kid. And
so, okay, well then I guess that leads me to my next thing is, what were you listening to at a young age?
When I was very young, and I say this with absolutely no embarrassment, when I was like 5 years old, I liked a lot of pop. I loved Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and Britney Spears, you name it, bro. I was about it, and this was, of course, in the 90s.
So you're listening to the radio then?
Yeah, and my first favorite song I remember when I was a kid was "Shine" by Collective Soul. So it was there. The idea of playing rock was kind of there from an early age, I guess, because that's a pretty rockin' song to be. Collective Soul's kind of like a pop rock band, I guess, but. I remember listening to it, and just the dynamics of the song and everything as a kid just blew me away, and I just listened to it. I had a cassette single. It was blue with a butterfly on it. I remember it. I would just listen to it over and over and over again, and it was a single play cassette single. It had no other songs on it. The side A and B were just the song, and I would just sit there and listen to it and listen to it and listen to it for hours.
Yeah, they had the cassingles.
Yeah, the cassingles.
Yeah,
man. $1.
Yeah. That's crazy. So that was pre the pre-YouTube days, because now you can get on YouTube and pretty much find any song that you're looking for, and there's some guy that'll show you how to play it, and then there's 2 or 3 people doing bad covers of it.
Oh yeah, and there's at least 2 or 3 videos analyzing each chord that they play and explaining why this isn't the best song in the world. And
I think if you're trying to play guitar these days, I really think you can get a lot farther a lot quicker, because there's so much material out there for free. Whereas back in the day, you had to buy DVDs, or like you said, buy Guitar World and kind of like cipher out the tabs.
Yeah, that's definitely how I learned pre and post guitar lessons. Like, when I stopped taking guitar lessons, the way I got to play, quote unquote fast, which the way I played fast and the way people play fast now, completely different. But I literally just I saved some money up and bought the Metallica Master of Puppets tab book, and I sat down and I literally just learned every song until I could play along with the album. That's just how I did it. And nowadays, you can watch like Steve Vai give a master class on YouTube for free.
I know.
Back then, I had to pay $40 for the Steve Vai DVD, and it was mostly just him playing at a concert or whatever with his hair flying around. Like,
yeah,
not helpful.
Yeah, those DVDs really didn't do much, man.
I learned more from the Crossroads DVD that I got than from any like instructional DVD, and it was just Eric Clapton and Sonny Landreth and all these amazing guitarists just playing guitar. Like, I learned way more about technique and stuff watching them and how they kind of did things. And Robert Cray was he was hugely influential to me at the time, because he did a lot of the same things I do. He liked a lot of the same. He didn't like tremolos, and he famously has the silver Strat with like a hardtail on it.
Yeah, oh yeah,
and his phrasing is just so good, and that's what I wanted. Like, I was playing Metallica and all this fast stuff, but I wanted to be able to write a solo that I could sing in my head and play at the same time, and other people would be able to sing.
Right.
And for a long time, like, as a teenager, you've got all these like ego problems and stuff. Like, you don't want other musicians to like be like, he's not that great. So I would wanted to show off constantly, and I couldn't reconcile that not every guitar song, every guitar solo has to have, 30-second note triplets and that crazy shit. So
I know there's something about being a guitar player that makes you just want to be like, hey, and watch this.
Yeah, watch me sweep pick over 6 strings.
Yeah,
it's totally musical. Sounds great.
It's Van Halen.
Yeah, pretty much.
We all want to be Eddie. At some point in your guitar playing career, you're like, yeah,
I definitely went through that too.
I'm gonna do Eruption just as hard as I can.
I need that Phase 90 and a Variac right now.
Oh yeah, well, and that's the other aspect of guitar playing is it's like, oh, I gotta have this pedal, and then I'm gonna have that pedal, and then I'm gonna have this pedal, and then after that I'll get the sound that I want. And then when you get them, you're just like, there's got to be something else, man.
Yeah. Well,
what else is there?
I remember, despite you working at a guitar store, you you told me so many times, it's in the fingers, man. The tone is in the fingers, and I did not believe you at all. I was like, he's totally talking shit. This is not right at all. I bought so many guitars. I think every practice for a while there, I had a different guitar.
Yeah. And you always expect that one to be the one.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just going to walk in and I'm just going to be magical. And then you got to dink with it for 30 minutes. And it's always a letdown. Every time I would come to practice with a new bass or something, it would just be like, I like the P bass so much better.
Yeah. And then I'd get the P bass.
I'd get the P bass back out of the case, and it would just feel like I was back where I needed to be.
I've experienced that with a couple of guitars. So I'm also in another band too. I should probably mention Late Night Zero. We're like a horror punk band.
Dude, I remember seeing Late Night Zero way back in the day.
Yeah, when I was a child and wasn't allowed to be in bands.
Well, probably not that. How old are you now?
I'm 28. So
no, it wasn't that long ago. I mean, it might have been a couple of years before you joined the band, but you know.
Yeah, they started in 2007, and I was 16 at the time. So I could have been in the band, I guess, but I wasn't really about the horror punk thing at the time, and I'm sure if any horror punk people listen, they're gonna be like, "Oh, he's not a true believer. He didn't love the Misfits from the time it came out of the womb." But I mean, I really didn't get into the Misfits until way later, and so they were just like a cool local band. But anyway, the tangent I got off on there, I was gonna say my main guitar for Late Night Zero is an SG, and something about when I first got it, I was like, man, and I'd wanted an SG since I was first starting to play guitar. And I finally got one, and it has 24 frets. It's like a weird, 120th anniversary or something.
Yeah, I remember. I worked on that guitar.
Yeah, and it just sounds really good. It's got the 498 pickups, but they sound amazing, and it feels really good to play. And
it feels like home.
Yeah, and every time I play it, I'll play other guitars live with it, and then I haven't played my SG in a while. I'll play it for a show, and I play it, and I'm like, man, why have I been playing these other guitars? This feels so much better.
Why did I ever leave?
Yeah, and then I've had so many guitars over the years. I've had Strats and Tellys and all the metal guitars like Schecters and stuff. And for Slumber, I play a custom guitar that you built me.
Yeah,
and
let's not forget to pitch the Big Bang.
Gotta promote. But
I try not to do that too much. But yeah, I mean, I
use it, and
that's a sweet guitar.
It sounds really good, and it plays really well. And I switch off pretty regularly between it and a Mexican Jazz Master. They both sound really good, and they feel really good. And I'm likely not going to use another guitar for playing that tuning. We have two different tunings. And then,
you're down in like drop C, aren't you?
We're in drop C sharp, and then we go to drop A sharp for some songs.
Oh wow, man!
And I'm playing a Gibson Les Paul Studio for the low tune stuff, and that's not a good choice. To any musician out there that's like, well, I want to tune really low, don't buy a Les Paul to do that. It's 24.75. That's not.
Yeah,
good for
the
tuning.
scale length isn't really conducive to down tuning.
Not at all. Like I'm putting 60s on it, and it feels bad. It's not.
You definitely need a longer scale length. 25 and a half. I think
we're switching to 7 strings, and I think that's probably the better move. I don't like the feel of 7 strings very much, but the songs sound much better with the lower tune strings and stuff. And
yeah, for sure.
The action's much better, and it's just not a mess right now.
Or maybe even like a baritone.
I've thought about getting a baritone too, but 7 strings are way more readily available and cheaper.
Yeah, and there's another thing as far as if you're like a gear guy is that in today's world you can pick up a really decent guitar for $200 or $300, whereas back in the day, 10, 15 years ago, stuff like that was like almost unobtainable for a regular working musician. I mean, you were well in the thousands for.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I remember. Being into all those heavy bands, and I was really into Fear Factory when I was like 17 and 18, and I really wanted a 7-string at the time. I was like, I need a 7-string, and I got one. I got a 7-string, and it was a Squier, made in Japan 7-string. I got it from the Music Store in Bluefield concert for like $200 because nobody wants a Squier 7-string. It was 25.5-inch scale, so that's not good. And it didn't sound terrible, but that's what you were looking at if you wanted something affordable that was a 7-string, even when I was 17, and that was only been 10 years ago.
Right.
You know, getting a nice 7-string like an Ibanez or an ESP, you're looking at like $1,000 for
for sure,
for the crappy one, like the one that has no name pickups and the crappiest tuners possible. Like if you wanted a nice 7-string, like $2,500.
Oh yeah, easy.
That's not really obtainable for
most guys.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like that's a month's worth of salary.
Yeah, that's all my bills.
I could eat, or now just hear me out. It's like what you're pitching to your wife or your girlfriend. Now just hear me out here. I know we like to live in a house.
However,
I know we like to have electricity and the internet, but I really think that this guitar will get me where I need to be.
This is the one. This
is the one. I'm telling you. This is it. I'll sell all my other shit.
I'm gonna buy this guitar, and then 2 months later, I'm gonna be playing like sold out Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, no, totally. It'll pay back.
Yeah, I've used that illusion so many times. I've been like, yep, this is the one. I just need this guitar for this sound. And my ex, we were together for like 8 years. She put up with that for an amount of time that was really not really fair to me or her. She should have at some point been like, you're hurting yourself now. You need to stop.
Just stop.
Yeah.
Just stop, man. But it's like we tend to take it to the limit because anything worth doing is worth doing to the ridiculous extreme, I suppose.
Exactly. Yeah. If you didn't care about it, if you weren't constantly thinking about, I need this guitar because this is the one, if you weren't obsessed with that idea, then are you really a musician? Are you really taking your craft seriously?
Yeah. What are you doing? What are you over there practicing? Jeez, get out of town.
What's that? Go on Musician's Friend and look at guitars, bro. Like that's what you need to be doing.
Yeah, I know. Every time the catalog comes in the mail, I'm like, ooh, I could do this. I could, hey, there's that.
Sweetwater's got that card, man. That was the worst decision of my life to get that credit card. I should never have done that.
Actually, I'd paid off my Musician's Friend card, and it was paid off for a long time, and so I was really proud of myself. And then just recently, I bought an electronic drum kit, and I bought a piano.
And you're like, I need this.
Oh, and it makes it look so nice on the website. It's like $11 a month.
Yeah, for the rest of your life.
For 6 years.
Yeah, until you die.
Oh, well.
I've done that. That's how I actually got
the marketing.
Yeah, that's actually how I got the amp that I use in Slumber now.
Yeah, so what are you using?
I'm using an orange Rocker Verb Mark III.
That's cool. What is that, 212s, 112?
It's a head. It's just
okay.
And a cab, yeah. And then I have...
So what kind of cab are you using then?
As
far as specs?
Honestly, and this is going to disgust gearhounds to death, I'm using a PV Valve King 4x12 with stock speakers.
Listen, man, PV gets a bad rap, but they make good stuff.
Yeah,
I mean they really do.
They do, and the speakers. I mean, Troy, the other guitarist in my band, he is a gearhound to an extreme level. He's changed magnets in his pickups and.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and he had a.
You can hear the tone in the Alnicos.
Yeah, that was him to a T. He swears by it. He did a bunch of mods on it. On his Marshall.
It makes you feel better.
And so he's that guy for sure. And he has like a white box cab, and it's super nice, and it sounds really good. And I'm just like, man, I've had this Valve King for like 10 years. I'm just gonna keep plugging into it with whatever amp I have, and I think it sounds good, man. Like
honestly, at the end of the day, it's just if it sounds good and it blends well, with the rest of the band, then really, it's a speaker cabinet. You know what I'm saying? It's as long as it doesn't pop and fizzle and and the speakers aren't blown and it doesn't rattle.
And it does none of those things.
So what do you? Well, and that's the thing about PV. I mean, you can take those PV heads that are 30 years old and plug them in; they still work just fine.
Yep.
They make quality stuff.
Yeah, my first real guitar amp that I had was a PV Bandit. I mean, it was a crappy little All State, but I'm sure.
Hey man, those Bandits actually sounded really good.
They did.
We sold those at the music store I worked at, and
I think that's where I bought it from.
Yeah. Well, hey, there you go.
Honestly, the thing about that I've learned is studio tone is what matters. The way you sound live, honestly, isn't that important because
there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah,
it's a totally different atmosphere.
Yeah, and you go to a club show and you have somebody playing through a Bandit or something small that's mic'd up, a Boss Katana or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is like the new solid state Boss thing. It's perfectly fine. But then you have somebody playing through a twin, a Fender Twin. You're not really going to tell the difference because it's not going to be that huge of a difference, especially clean. you're not going to be able to tell really. And you know, some of the best clean tones ever recorded were done on a JC120, which is that's a solid state amp.
Yeah.
The Roland JC120 was used on so many. I mean, that's the Metallica clean tone. Who else used it? I think The Cure used it. And
really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're known for their clean tones. Like that's what they did. The JC120 was like the workhorse amp in the 80s. You listen to a clean signal in the 80s, it's probably a 120.
Huh.
So it depends. I think a lot of that comes down to your school of thought with where you grew up with music. Like, did you start out listening to Stevie Ray Vaughan and Clapton and all the blues guys? You're gonna want a twin,
Right? Yeah, you're definitely gonna want an old Fender tube amp for sure.
Yeah, because you can't get a Dumble. So most bands I saw, actually went to a show not too long ago, and I saw Norma Jean and Devil Wears Prada, and Troy went with me, my guitarist, and we went there and watched the show. And he commented at one point, because we're the gear guys, we're gonna go up there and be like, "What do you guys have?" And Norma Jean and Devil Wears Prada, if you're not familiar, they're pretty popular bands. They've had some pretty successful albums. They all played through Axe-Effects or like Helixes or Kempers. None of them played through amps. None of them were using amps at all. Everything was processed. Everything was digital, and they sounded amazing. Their live tone was very good.
Well, I think it goes back to what I told you 20 years ago, is that really your tone is in your fingers, and if you practice enough, you can make. I mean, hey, let's face it. Jimi Hendrix could walk into a pawn shop and pick up the biggest piece of crap, and as long as it would stay in tune,
yeah,
people would be like, "Damn, that dude can play guitar."
Yep, I've seen so many bands live. I've watched tiny bands that were nothing, just local bands that was their last show essentially, that they've never done anything else. And I saw the Foo Fighters. That was probably the biggest show I've ever been to. And I mean, Foo Fighters were great. They're probably the best live show I've ever been to as well. By far, had the best energy. But would they have sounded as good if Dave Grohl had been playing, an Epiphone? Probably.
Probably so.
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't really feel like the drums that Taylor Hawkins were playing made a difference to how good they were, because they've been playing together for years and they're all really good musicians, and that's what mattered.
Yeah, that's something I think is really important too, is just kind of keeping in mind that it is a show, so try to entertain people, not just musically, but also with what you do on stage and how you present yourself, and and all the things that go on with that, because really ultimately people come and they want to be entertained, and it's if you don't do that, then they're more likely to talk over your set and not pay attention. But if you're putting on a good show,
they're going to pay attention.
Yeah, they're going to be there. They're going to be at least present in the moment.
Yeah, and that's something that I think bands nowadays don't really. I haven't seen it as much, but when I was first starting to play with like late night and stuff, I saw it a lot. A lot of bands kind of would just stand there and play, or they would jump up and down a little bit or whatever. And the thing is, people can listen to your album whenever they want. If you are literally just reproducing an album live, no one's going to care. No one's going to want that.
Yeah, we've heard that.
Yeah, I can listen to that anytime I want. I can go and listen to Spotify whenever I want to and hear exactly this with better quality. So there needs to be some kind of show aspect to it. There needs to be something that you're not getting on the CD live. And sometimes that's easy. If you're an established musician, you can just play songs that that aren't on an album,
Right.
I've seen Dax Riggs a bunch of times, and I really love everything he does pretty much. He was the lead singer of Acid Bath back in the 90s, but he hasn't released an album in like 7 years. And so when he does tour, he plays a bunch of songs that no one's ever heard before because he's never released another album. So he doesn't have to have a show. He can just stand there and play guitar and sing, and people are going to love it because he's playing a bunch of stuff no one's heard. But most people can't do that. Most people are playing to support an album, and there better be something to it,
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I think that new bands kind of struggle with that because they haven't found their identity yet. They don't know who they are. And even, Slumber, full of veteran musicians for the most part, we still are trying to figure out, what do we want to be live? Who do we want to be? Do we want to be the kind of band that's very serious and we just kind of stand there and like let the singer be the focal point because, she's young and she's got this mystique to her and everything.
Right.
And, do we want to be like a backing band almost for her live, or do we want to try to be individuals and our own people? And, that's definitely something you have to keep in mind when you're creating a band, especially in a genre that's not really what the rules aren't all laid out for you.
Right.
You know.
And you guys haven't quite made it to face paint and masks yet. So
we definitely talked about it. Our first like concept meeting we all had together. We were just, you know, what do we want to do? Do we want to be really showy and dress up in costumes and stuff? And we're still not really at a consensus on it. We just kind of agreed that it's a lot of work and we're lazy people in general, so we haven't done it yet. So
yeah, that's the musician in you.
Yeah, and I have a good excuse too, because I'm in another band where I do that. So it's like, do I have to do this in both bands? Am I going to do this Friday night and Saturday night? Like, I don't know about that, guys. Like, I want a break, because I don't know if you've ever worn a mask for any period of time. They're very hot, and stage lights are also very hot. So
yeah. Oh,
yeah,
it's crazy.
Buckets of sweat. It's not a good time.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's definitely something that people, new musicians especially, need to focus on when they need to write good songs. Definitely write music that's awesome that you like, but also keep in mind that if you are planning on being a stage ready band and you're going to play in front of people, be thinking about how am I going to put this into a live environment that people are going to enjoy.
So where did you record the EP at?
We recorded the Slumber EP at Classic Recording here in Bristol.
Okay, cool.
With Mike Stevenson. He is an amazing engineer.
Mike's great. I've known Mike for a long time.
Yeah, 5 of 5, definitely recommend. His rates are great, and I know it sounds like I'm just shamelessly plugging him really hard here, but
no, I mean
he's as good as I say he is. He's better than that. He's amazing. His prices are incredible too. He definitely knows the working musicians' budgets, and he makes you sound way better than you probably are.
Yeah. So when you recorded with him, did you go mainly through the board? Did you guys mic up your amps? What was the recording process like?
So when we recorded the EP, the way that we did it is we went in, everybody rough tracked together, as like we live recorded everything as a band. That's how we got our drums. And then I recorded, I mic'd my guitar, all my guitars up. I had just got my rock reverb, so we used it, and I think we used I want to say a Mesa cab that he had there.
Right.
I mic'd all my guitar parts. Everything I did was with my pedal board. No, I don't think he really put any post effects in there other than, like, you know, the usual studio stuff.
Right.
Everything on my end is all analog, traditional. And then Troy, when he recorded, he uses a Helix, so he doesn't even have an amp head or anything. He went through the Helix into the board. So you kind of getting a little bit of both worlds there.
Right. Well, that's cool. Now, you're in different sonic spaces when you do that.
Exactly. And I at first I was kind of hesitant about it because, I was worried that the incongruency between my sound and his sound would be jarring almost, I guess.
Right.
But it really works very well, and it kind of gives it that. It sounds really polished because his guitar tone is perfect because it's digital, and mine is not. So all the solos that I play sound very raw and aggressive and in your face kind of stuff. And his solos, even though he's a bluesy kind of guy too, his solos that he plays sound like a studio. They sound very, very nice. The tone's really good, and it's predictable, and it's a good balance of the two things, I think, and it really works. I think it works really well, especially live, for getting a nice balance of tone there.
I think that is one of those things where you sit down at the beginning and go, okay, well, what kind of guitar are you playing? All right, well, so if you're using single coils, I'll use humbuckers, because if you have two humbucker guitars, it's really hard to differentiate between the two.
Exactly, yeah.
No matter what kind of pedals you're using or what kind of amp you're using, the tone of the humbuckers is just so vastly different from single coils. And over the years as a guitar builder, I've come to really like the tone of humbuckers. They just seem to be so much more full, over that of like a single coil. But I tell you what, I really appreciate is the P90 tone. P90s are very interesting pickups in that at like when you roll your volume back to like 7 or 8, it cleans up and it thins out a little bit. And then from 9 to 10, it really dirties up. So you can almost get the distortion effect by just rolling the volume all the way up.
Yeah, for sure. And that's so if you listen to the Slumber EP, I used the Jazzmaster solely to record it. And the reason I did so was not because the Model A didn't sound amazing, because it really does sound
right on.
crazy good in the studio. But honestly, it's because Troy recorded everything with a Fender a thin line, so he's using those wide range humbuckers.
Right. Yeah.
And so he's the humbucker guy, and I didn't want to also use humbuckers because there's Stormbuckers in the Model A.
Right. Oh yeah, I remember.
And they're sweet pickups, man. They sound really good. But I didn't want. They're too similar to the wide ranges. They're different, but they're not really.
Right.
And I wanted us to be able to be unique and be differentiated in all the songs that are in C sharp, which is. Yeah, it's half the album is C sharp and half the album is A sharp. So the two songs that are in C sharp, I really wanted people to be able to hear. This is Troy and this is Storm. I wanted to be able to hear each person and know who was playing what.
Right.
And obviously, Jazzmasters have single coils, and single coil sound on that especially on Wake Up. The way I recorded it straight through with no punch ins. And I literally use my volume knob and the clean channel and a TS9 or something like that for the entire song until the bridge. So all the chorus and the cleaning back up in the verses, and because it's kind of one of those quiet, loud songs.
Right.
All of that's just done with an overdrive and my volume knob. So I've been in a lot of bands that clean tone was super important. I was in a lot of indie projects and stuff when I was in my early 20s, and clean tone is king in those bands. You know, you want that really nice clean.
Right.
I can't even think. I guess Johnny Greenwood's from Radiohead is probably the best example of everybody wants that super clean, Tele Plus, lace sensor clean tone.
Yep.
And so I played a lot of single coils. I played Strats and Teles and stuff a lot back then. And of course, you know, when it came to playing like metal and playing harder stuff, you know, I would never use a single coil guitar in late 90 because we're punk and
right.
We're kind of like a light metal almost in a lot of ways. We have a lot of metal influences, and you can't get that really nice chunky, you know, digging in power like palm muted power chords with P90s or single coils. You really can't.
Right. It just won't go there.
Yeah, and if you overdrive your amp to make it go there, it just turns into mush, and you just can't hear anything. So,
yeah, the note definition is definitely much better with a humbucker pickup.
Yeah, and when I started, you know, playing guitar back when I was a wee child, I definitely wanted that humbucker tone. I wanted it because I had only single coils because my second guitar was a Tele, and I love that Tele, and definitely helped with a lot of stuff that I was trying to work on, like with blues and that kind of thing. But I always wanted that really, I wanted the humbucker tone. And I remember buying like a super crappy like Kirk Hammett ESP or something that had EMGs in it, and I was just blown away by how heavy it was, and it was so nice to just be able to play something really heavy and but
especially the EMGs, because that's even a further progression in the pickup world, as we've gone from, you know, like even a humbucker is still passive, and then once you get into the EMGs, those are active, so that gives you definitely a little more tone control. It seems like you have better control of your mid-range with the active pickups.
For sure. And for a while I was really, really all about the EMG life. I played LTD Vipers all the time, and I was just super in love with it, and I recognize that there was no chaos in it. EMGs provide you with a perfect replication of what you play. Right. There's no room for insanity in there. There's no room for, you know, there's no chaos. There's no unpredictability. And one of my favorite albums, and guitar tone wise, is Siamese Dream by Smashing Pumpkins.
Oh yeah.
That fuzzy wall of sound guitar tone that Billy Corgan achieved in that album is just crazy, and that's kind of been my my white whale for guitar tones for years, was trying to replicate that tone, and just how can I make it sound so full and so chaotic in my guitar solos, and just all this crazy stuff is happening, and the notes are sputtering out sometimes, and occasionally they're like just insane frequency changes and stuff, and I wanted that for years and years and years. And you know, I thought that because I watch a lot of videos with Billy Corgan, and he's constantly wanting more gain. He wants more gain all the time, and I was like, yeah, that's what I need to do. I need one more gain. I need more gain. But that's not how he achieved that tone at all. You know, having the heaviest, most high output pickups and the heaviest, most high output guitar amp, you're not going to get that tone.
Well, he used what was it? There was a pedal that he used.
It was an IC Big Muff.
Yeah, the Big Muff. That's right.
Yeah, it was an op amp Big Muff with an IC in it, and I actually have got a pedal built by Mike Lively in the UK. He builds them all the time. It's called the Dream Box, and it's literally a Distortion 3, an MXR Distortion 3, and an IC Muff put together in one pedal.
Oh, wow.
And it essentially gives you the Siamese Dream tone. Like, it's pretty spot on live and recorded. It sounds pretty close.
Nice.
So anybody that's out there looking for that Billy Corgan tone, buy you a Phase 100, buy you that Dream Box from Mike Lively. He still sells them and makes them all the time, and they're very reasonably priced for a boutique pedal. That's how you get it. That's the answer. You can play it in at any amp, and it's probably still going to sound exactly like it.
Yeah.
There's just so much signal output through that pedal. Like, it doesn't matter what you run it through.
It's just going to blow it out.
Pretty much. But the way he got the tone is he used that IC Muff, that Distortion 3, and he played through a JCM 900, and he would turn the gain. He'd play, I think JCM 900s are 2 channels, right?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, the 800s are the 1 channel, yeah. So he'd play through the distorted channel, dime the gain and dime the volume on the Big Muff, and turn the amp all the way down and just turn it up loud enough that he could hear the amp.
Right, just where a little bit of signal gets through on the volume.
Exactly, and because it's the dirty channel and everything's dimed on the amp, all the knobs are dimed. That's how he got that tone, that on the edge of chaos tone, is because the amp's distorted signal is just barely coming through just enough, and I would say most of his volume actually came from the pedal.
Right.
And for anybody that wants to know, he played Lace Sensor Red Silver Blue set in a Strat. So
as far as the songwriting goes, for the new band and for some of the other projects you've been in, do you write lyrics and stuff like that, or do you mostly concentrate on guitar riffs? Kind of like, what's your process there?
Okay, so for Late Night Zero, it's a very different process because I virtually don't write anything in that band. That's not exactly true, but I let Nate Lundy, he's our lead singer, I'll let him write all the lyrics, the vocal melodies. He usually writes the guitar lines, and then I'll come in after that. He'll show me what he played, and then I'll kind of add my own lead parts to it, and I'll zazz it up, as what he says. That's kind of what I do in Late Night. Is he writes everything, and our drummer has written a couple of songs too, so that's not entirely true. But I kind of stay out of the writing thing because for some reason when I try to write horror punk, I just write Metallica riffs, man. I don't know what it is. I can't do it. I either write Metallica or I write every Ramones song. It's the only 2 things I have. Like, I can't.
You have a good pool to draw from, at least.
I mean, yeah, but the Ramones have like 140 songs, so there's no way I'm going to write a Ramones song that hasn't already been written. And shameless plug for one of my good friends' bands. The Jasons are already doing that way better than I could anyway. So
right.
But yeah, and so for that band, I literally just wait for him to write stuff, and then he presents it to me, and I kind of just do the deed, and then that's pretty much all it is for that. And then with Slumber and a lot of the other projects that I'm considered like the lead songwriter on, I write everything for the most part. And I know that sounds, my bandmates are going to be mad. I don't write vocals or lyrics for anything. I cannot do that. But in terms of writing a song...
So you're writing the riffs then?
I write the riffs. A lot of the times I'll either have an idea for the bass or I'll just flat out write the bass. And I usually program drums now that I have like a decent in-home studio. And they end up being different. I'm not at all a Nazi about it. Like, I'm not like, you have to write exactly this and play exactly this. I'm not like that. But that's how...
Well, I mean, you're not a drummer. So, you know what I'm saying? You're given like Tom's signature and, overall feel. But at the end of the day, you let the drummer do his thing.
Yeah, usually I just steal from other songs when I write my drum lines. I'm like, hey, this sounds cool.
That was a neat riff.
I'm going to lift it from this song and put it in here. And then hopefully my drummer doesn't play exactly that, or we're going to be in some trouble. But yeah, as far as coming up with riffs, literally all I do is I'll sit down when I get off work. I'll pick up a guitar and I'll put on like just some TV or something that I don't really have to pay attention to.
Right.
And I just sit there and noodle on my guitar until I come up with something, usually not even plugged in. And then when I come up with a riff, that's it. The riff's there. I practice it a few times to make sure I can play it live, and then I record it.
So then who writes the lyrics for the Slumber project?
Heather writes all the lyrics and the vocal melodies. She does all that herself.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, she's She's honestly, almost like a prodigy when it comes to writing vocal melodies because she has no experience previous to this project. She literally hadn't done anything musically like that at all. And that's how we met. She mentioned that she wanted to be in a band and work on music and stuff. And on Facebook, we worked together at a factory. So we didn't really know each other. Like, we were talking stuff. But
Right.
I was like, hey, I have a studio at home and I can totally like write you some stuff to just jam out to and get you comfortable. And we just hit it off super well. And she's one of my best friends now. And we make a very, very good team musically, I feel like. And
Well, that's cool. So do you like send her? So I would assume then you said you've got a studio at the house, so you probably record some stuff, just kind of give her the tracks and let her create vocals from that.
That's what I do. Actually, I kind of go overboard with it because I kind of get into this mindset where I'm writing a completed song. And so I'll record multiple guitar tracks and I'll get the drums fixed up and I'll do like bass and the whole song is done, pretty much except vocals and stuff. And then I send it to the rest of the band and I say, here's the new jam. You guys can work with it and do what you want. And that's kind of the way that the process has worked for Slumber, and it's worked really well. Because doing it that way, I think is kind of nice because I still get to have a little bit of creative freedom over the songs. And I'm the most prolific creatively, I think, in our band. I write riffs constantly all the time. And then I can give it to them, write out the tabs for it. They can learn it. And then as they're learning it, before practices and stuff, they can be adding their own pieces to it and be figuring out what they want to do to it.
Right.
And it works.
So you're not a stickler as far as that's concerned.
Not at all.
It doesn't have to be what you wrote.
No, not at all. The only part that I care about being similar to what I wrote is the guitar line that I'm going to play.
Right.
And even that's not really set in stone. I definitely am not one of those people that thinks that a song is done when I write it. I feel like songs need to be able to breathe and evolve in a band setting.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if you're writing something for somebody else, you definitely want to give them artistic license to take it and hopefully make it better, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I don't. That's exactly right there why I don't want to be like, this is the song, this is how I wrote it, this is how it has to be. Because what if my bassist has a really awesome idea for a sweet bass lead in there that's going to sound phenomenal, and I'm just like, no.
Yeah, no, that comes off as a bit dickish.
I'm the most prolific. That doesn't mean that the other people in the band don't have anything to offer except being my puppets. That's a bad way to look at it.
Oh yeah, for sure. One that creates animosity.
For sure, yeah. People don't want to be set pieces.
Exactly.
People don't like that. But,
you want to turn into James Brown.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, I heard you miss a few notes there. I'm gonna have to dock your pay for tonight.
Yeah, we're gonna dock you $1 for every note you didn't hit there.
Oh jeez.
But yeah,
that'd be hard to deal with, man.
I couldn't do it. There's no way. I'd be like, yeah, that's cool. I'm out.
I'm getting on the good foot. I'm out of here.
Yeah. But yeah, like that's the process.
So what was the first band you were ever in?
The first band I was ever in was a Function of X when I was in college, and I mentioned them earlier. That was the first project I was ever really in.
And where'd you go to college at?
I went to college at Southwest Virginia Community College in Richlands.
Oh,
yeah.
Right on. How'd you like that?
Well, I flunked out, so.
Really?
Yeah.
You're such an intelligent guy. And I'm not saying that like sarcastically. I mean, I find you to be a very interesting, intelligent person. So,
honestly, well, first of all, I found a girl that I liked, and that derailed me pretty hard. And
as often is the case.
Yeah, buddy. And so that was part of the problem. And the other part of the problem is I was in general studies. I wanted to go into film at the time, so the classes were terribly boring and they weren't fulfilling whatsoever. So, and I went back. I tried again. 2 more times, and I flunked out 2 more times, and now I'm in college, and I'm doing a little better.
I know. Yeah, I think last time we talked, you were doing accounting, right?
Yeah, I switched to management from accounting, just because accounting is also soul sucking and boring. So,
oh jeez, yeah, that's like death for artists,
pretty much. And at my current job, I do a lot of spreadsheet work and stuff, but it's different because it's like a problem-solving thing, and I'm making a difference in my company by doing this stuff. And in accounting, it's just, all right, that one's done. Now here's a million more until you retire or die of a heart attack.
It's never. It's like the mail.
Yeah,
it's just another one.
It's literally you're literally just a U.S. mail worker. Like, that's what you do, except with numbers.
Oh, jeez.
And way more high stakes usually, because it's like, if you misplace a decimal, you're going to lose this person millions of dollars.
Yikes.
Yeah. So
That's not good. Okay, so you're in school, and then how'd you get involved in the band then?
So it actually started up. I was in college. I didn't know anybody at the time because even though I'm from Richlands, I don't know anyone from there. So pretty much, I just was like, I really want to be in a band, and my friend Samuel moved down there with me, and we were gonna start like a weird 2-piece thing. I was really into like indie music at the time and like really experimental stuff. So we were gonna do like a weird 2-piece. Like we would play like we had a stupid idea. We were gonna use suitcases as our kick drums. It was terrible. Don't do that.
Wow. No, I've been there.
Yeah,
I've been there.
Don't do that. But just skip that phase, kids. If you're there, it's not going to pan out. Just go ahead and move on. Get a drummer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for real. So was it 2 guitar players then?
He didn't play anything at the time. I think he plays guitar now, but I don't really talk to him much anymore. But he was going to be the vocalist, and we were going to try to build a band.
Oh, okay.
I was the guitarist, or I could play bass. I could be flexible if I needed to be. And we just started hitting up musicians, and he was very talkative, and at the time I was not. I was very shy. And he would just go around and ask people to be in a band, and that's actually how I met. She's my ex now, but we were together for a long time. That's actually how I met her. Is he just hit her up in the cafeteria at the college one day. He was like, "Hey, you want to be in a band?" She was like, "Yeah, okay." We all added each other on MySpace, and yeah, that's when that was.
Oh yeah, back in the day of MySpace. I remember my MySpace page.
Dude, I miss MySpace. But anyway, and so she hit me up, and we started talking, and then Samuel moved back to Bland, and she and I just started working on music and stuff, and then I got my friend Derek involved, and he played bass for us, and we kind of just lived in her mom's basement. It was like a basement apartment.
Right.
We kind of all just lived there and wrote stuff, and I had this a GNX1 Digitech effects pedal board thing.
Okay.
And it had a built-in drum machine. And so you can imagine how terrible that was, because it's a drum machine on a pedal board.
Oh, yeah.
And I used that drum machine
Great tones
to write our first 4 songs with that project.
I mean, the drum machine is cheesy, but it at least gives you some sense of timing and rhythm.
Yeah, and that's what we used it for. And then we could never find a drummer. There were no options for drummers. We were in Lebanon at the time, Lebanon, Virginia. No drummers in the area.
Probably could pick up a banjo player pretty easily.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think Crooked Road runs right through Lebanon, so there were tons of bluegrass.
Different thing there.
Yeah, but we couldn't find a drummer, and my mom bought me a DR660, which is a drum machine, a really nice drum machine, and I started programming all of our drum beats with that. And I would sit for hours. I remember sitting. I actually stood. I remember having on a PA speaker that didn't work anymore, and I had it sitting up there. And I would have headphones on, and I would just sit there for hours and sequence drums on this drum machine. And we got like 6 songs together. And this is how crazy this was. We would sit down for practices. We would sit down and listen to these drum tracks and play along with them, and then we would organize them together into like a show, and we would play a show with this drum machine.
Nice.
So I got really good rhythmic lessons from that, because it's very difficult to play with a drum machine if you've never tried it. It's really hard.
Yeah, they don't respond.
No, you have no margin for errors. If you drop out, you better be able to pick back up, because it's not stopping. It's not going to accommodate you. So
right, yeah, for sure.
And we played our first show at the Rocket Club, and we had played there once before as a 2-piece. We just did some covers and stuff, but then we actually played as a 3-piece with a drum machine, and it didn't go great because drum machines are what they are. They're a machine.
Right.
And but people really dug it. I was very surprised, and that was like the first show that I played where I was like, man, people actually like this, even though it's weird and it's not whatever people were listening to at the time in Bluefield, Virginia. But
that's cool. You found an audience.
Yeah, and it was just a bunch of drunk dudes at the bar, but they liked it. They thought it was cool, and it helped that we had a female lead singer. That always helps.
Yeah,
that's always a bonus. But yeah, people actually dug it, and it went really well. And we played a couple more shows at Rocket Club, and then eventually, like, a bunch of stuff happened, and there was like this really bad show we played. A lot of bad stuff happened that same day. It was a terrible, terrible time. And we kind of decided we were going to go on a hiatus for a while, and then we went on hiatus, moved to Withville. I started working. I had a job at a factory and was working and making money, and then I met Grant for the first time. Grant Clemens, he's the drummer for Slumber now. Mm-hmm. Met him, and he was super interested in doing music, and we had a lot of the same bands in common.
You're like, hey, a drummer.
Yeah,
nice.
And he was super interested in playing with us, so we like got together, and we kind of made this happen, and we added a bunch of other members. We had Hunter Ingo play bass for us for a while, and we had
I remember Hunter.
Yeah, he played bass for us for a while, and he also played bass in Late Night Zero for a while too. So he was in multiple bands with me. Derek Tibbs also played bass for Late Night Zero. He was the original bassist for Function of X. So a lot of the same people in all these bands I'm in. It's very weird. Yeah, so we met Grant, and we added. I think originally we had Hunter played bass for us. And we had Chanel White played second. No, Chanel was our bassist first after Derek quit. And then we wanted to add a second guitar, and she decided to switch to guitar, and we found Hunter played bass for us. And then she graduated high school. She was still in high school in the band, so she was underage at the time.
Right.
Which was annoying because her parents had to take her to practices and stuff, and it was just a bummer. But she was even back then a very, very talented guitarist, and apparently I haven't talked to her in a while, but Grant still talks to her, and apparently she's still very talented, and she plays drums and all kinds of stuff. So it was cool to see her progress musically and everything.
Right.
And
yeah.
I was glad that her first band was with us because I feel like that was a pretty positive musical environment for her and stuff. But anyway, she moved to guitar, and we did that for a while, and the songs were much better after we had a drummer.
Right. Yeah.
And then we moved on to Chanel quit. I think she wanted to start going to college in Radford, so she quit the band, and we got another guitarist, my friend Michael, and we did that for a while. We played one show with that lineup at Spring Save in Rural Retreat Rec Center. We played it. It was a huge like a huge fundraiser thing for suicide awareness and prevention, and we played that one show. And then Grant had joined Earth by Train at that point, and that was a much more he was going to be playing a lot of shows and stuff, and it was kind of
yeah. Anthony is just real driven and focused on booking shows and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And so he was like, I had this opportunity to play with Earth by Train, and I was like, hey man, do it, dude. Like anytime any musician that's in a band with you has an opportunity to do something like that, don't hold them back. Let them do it. And so he went and did that, and I was kind of ready to take a break. I was working a lot and was getting kind of burnt out on the whole thing, and because there was I was still kind of doing the same thing now that I did back then, where I wrote most of the material, and then my girlfriend at the time was the singer, so I would write all the material, and she would write a vocal melody and lyrics.
Right.
And that worked out pretty good, but I was getting to a point where I was just forcing myself to write things, and everybody liked them. Everybody liked what I was writing, but I didn't like it, and so I wasn't motivated to practice anymore, and I wasn't motivated to keep doing things, and so I took a break, and I got really into the Magic the Gathering card game, and that was
for sure.
That was like being on hard drugs. So don't get involved in that, kids, because that's definitely a slippery slope to selling your soul for a pack of cards at Walmart or something.
Yeah, it sucks all your money out of the bank. It takes up a lot of time.
Yeah.
You end up hanging out with people you wouldn't normally hang out with.
It's literally like being a drug addict.
You're waiting for the guy to get the thing.
I literally met, and that's a good lead in, because the next band I was in was Late Night Zero, and I got the opportunity to be in that band because Nate Lundy, the lead singer, also plays Magic, and he sells Magic cards like as a second job almost. And
that's too funny.
And I got the hookup that he was selling a bunch of cards for a pretty discounted rate. And I met him, if any listeners are from Withville, I met him at McWayne Pool at like 2:00 in the morning.
To buy, hey, you got the cards, man?
Yeah, it literally looked like a drug deal. I'm really surprised cops didn't come down there and be like, what are you kids doing?
They would have been very disappointed.
Yeah, first of all, Nate's like 40, so they'd have been like, what are you kids? Oh, okay. Are those cards on the table? Like, yep. Yes, sir, they are.
That's it.
So that's how
the dope at.
Yeah, there isn't any of this. You're looking at it right here, guy. Like, you want in on this?
That's too funny.
But yeah, that's actually how I met Nate. And a little while later, he was like, "Hey, and you want to be the guitarist for Late Night and try out?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, man. I could."
Yeah.
And then I practiced a little bit. I played a show with Late Night Zero at the Rural Retreat Rec Center. I didn't know any of the songs. It was terrible, bad time. Do not recommend. If you don't know the songs, don't tell everybody you do, because they're gonna know.
yeah, it eventually will come out.
Yeah, at a show. That's what it came out for me.
That's
and I was
trial
like,
by fire.
And I was like, hey guys, I didn't know any of those songs, and for some reason they were like, that's fine, you're still in the band. And I was like, oh well, that's cool.
That speaks a lot to the horror punk mentality.
I think you're right. Yeah, and
it's cool. You don't have to worry. Don't worry about it.
Well, I think they knew I was gonna learn them. I was lazy about it, and I definitely thought I underestimated. That was, I think, the problem really is that I had the hard punk mentality, and you can't. Those songs seem easy, but they're not.
Right. Yeah.
And so I actually learned the songs correctly, and then we played. Man, we had a couple of years there where we were playing a show like every weekend, multiple shows on the weekends. We played in Fayetteville at Ghouls Night Out, and we played a ton of shows at the Hideaway in Johnson City. We played. We played the Mecca a bunch of times when it was open. And Late Night was my main band for a long time, and then we took a break for a while. And that's when I was kind of getting the Slumber thing started, and then we played some shows, and we came back and just did like a few run of shows in like Beckley, and we played Hideaway again. Had a really good reception, so we're actually working on a new album with Late Night Zero too, so it'll probably be out sometime in like March or April.
Cool. Yeah, I can't wait to hear that. Yeah, I think when I was working on the guitar for you, you guys were taking a little bit of a break, so I'm glad to hear you're doing that again.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. It's really cathartic to play with Late Night Zero because it's fun. You don't have to overthink everything, and you're putting on a show, so it's like, people are going to be entertained by not just your guitar playing or just by the songs, but by the show you put on. And
yeah, for sure.
I really always liked putting the makeup and stuff on because people were like, "Whoa, that's creepy, man! Like that's spooky." And that's a huge compliment when you're in a hard punk band. You want to be scary.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah,
that's what I'm going for.
I made a kid cry once. We played Radford Library, and I put full makeup on. It was like a middle of the day show for kids and stuff, and it was us and 52
for
Ways. For kids,
like
yeah.
kids,
Yep.
like third graders.
Yeah, like 8-year-olds, man.
Who the fuck booked that? I mean,
I don't know. I just showed up. I put my latex horns on. I put my mask on, and we played. Funny. And kids liked it, man. Most of the kids that showed up did, and they actually enjoyed it.
Oh, get out of town. That's too funny.
But we put our makeup on in the bathroom at the Radford Library, and I walked out. I had latex horns on. I had black eye makeup and white face paint and this like Oni demon mask thing that I wear. And this kid looked at me and immediately started crying and was like, "Oh no, a giant!" That's what he said. It wasn't that I was a demon or a monster. No, he was afraid of the fact that I was a giant. I wonder if he had just seen me normally, if he would have still cried and screamed "giant."
That's too
probably,
funny.
But
I don't know.
But yeah. And I was kind of like, that was sad. I was like, "Oh no, kid, it's okay." But,
it's okay.
But also I was like, yeah, I am scared. I'm doing something right here.
Oh, that's too funny.
Yeah, that was a crazy show. We actually played it, and then Screamers is like across the street from the library in Radford, and a bunch of their bands had decided not to show up for some reason. I'm not really sure what the details were. I can't remember. But they were like, "Hey, do you guys want to come over and play the show at Screamers?" It was us and 52 Ways, and we were just like, "Yep." And so we went over there, and I got really drunk and don't really remember a ton about that show, but it was very fun from what I do remember.
That's cool,
They
man.
gave us free alcohol because we were like saving them pretty much for having no bands. So
actually, I went to school at Radford.
Yeah, you went to Radford University, so you know all about Screamers then.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't remember a whole lot. I was there for several years, but Radford. It's,
I know what you're saying.
It's a fun school.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of fun. The degree didn't pay off too much, but I had a lot of life experiences. Met a lot of great people. Drank a lot of beer.
Yeah, every time I'm in Radford, I drink a lot of beer, even though I'm not in college. I am in college, it's not there.
Right.
It's weird. What is your degree in?
Graphic design. Yeah, I did. I majored in art, and then my concentration was graphic design. I got a minor in philosophy, so I can wax philosophical. But neither one of those degrees. Actually, I kind of take that back because since I do cut out my guitars on the CNC machine, in order to design the guitars, I have to do the design software is a lot like Illustrator in that you're basically drawing digitally. So I can't say that I didn't get some use out of my degree, but I kind of in retrospect I kind of wish I had pursued that a little bit more after graduation, because when I graduated from Radford, I was working at the guitar shop.
Yeah.
And that's how I ended up in Wytheville, is because the guy that owned the guitar shop there in Radford said, "Hey, I'm going to open a guitar shop in Wytheville, and I want you to go run it for me." So that's when I met you and all the other crew there.
Yeah, which is crazy. That's happenstance.
Yeah. It's crazy how life works out, isn't it?
Yeah. If at any point, any of the music that I create becomes well known to anyone, it's because of that event right there.
I know. It's
because
crazy.
there's no way I would have kept playing guitar if I hadn't gotten lessons, because I was getting really frustrated with it. I was ready to stop playing.
Yeah, I mean, really, you do need people to. As great as YouTube is,
Yeah.
it is nice to have somebody you can ask stupid questions to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You can't really stop the video and be like, why do I put my finger here instead of?
Yeah, and I remember asking you those questions. I remember asking you, like,
I mean, I know enough theory to be dangerous, and I always try to explain it to my guitar students, because I think that's what happens with a lot of people, is that they'll just somebody will show them where to put their fingers, but they don't really give them any background. So I try to at least explain enough theory to get you started, or for you to understand that there's more to it than just put your finger here.
Yeah, and I didn't know that. Like, obviously I knew there were chords and stuff, but I didn't understand, like, these are notes. Like, this, first fret of the E string is an F.
Right.
That's an E string. Like, let's go back to that. That's an E string. That has a name. That's not just the string at the bottom or the top.
Right, yeah.
Whichever way you want to look at it. But
yeah, well, and when people start out, they, I always thought of it like you're learning a foreign language, because you're, I mean, it's a lot like, it's like trying to speak. You got to learn, you have to learn the alphabet first, and then you start to put little words together, and then you start to be able to speak somewhat eloquently. And in order for that to happen, you really kind of have to have the fundamentals of language. And I kind of feel like music is the same way. You need to start off by understanding, some basic theory stuff before you can start really diving into, like, to understand the jazz progressions and to understand a lot of that kind of more esoteric theory stuff. Obviously you have to have a basis in some sort of learning. So that's what I always try to start off my students with. Unfortunately, it never went too much further than that, because I'm fairly limited as a guitar player. But I mean, like I said, I know enough theory to at least get people started and be interested in it. So yeah, I'm glad I was able to help you out in some respects.
Oh, for sure. And I'm kind of the same way with the theory thing. Like, I know a lot about a little, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
I know a lot about the things I know when it comes to theory, but there's so much stuff I have no knowledge about classical theory. Like, I got nothing.
And again, that's the great thing about music, is there's always more to learn. There's always a different genre to explore. There's always different people's takes on the same thing. So, it's a great thing.
Yeah, for sure. And we had a conversation at my job the other day. We were talking about, what would you do if you won $1 billion and you never had to work anymore? And I was like, man, I would build a recording studio up in the woods, and I would, like, sit there and I would just record music all day, and I would listen to music, and I would learn everything I could learn about every type of music there was to learn. Because you're never going to learn it all. There's no way. And there's so much stuff that I want to learn. Like, there's so many different, I just want to learn jazz. Like, I want to go to Berkeley and go for 4 years and learn all that cool jazz shit. Like, I just want to learn all that, but I don't have time for that. I'm an adult with a life.
Yeah, I got bills to pay.
I have to pay my mortgage payment. Like, I got to work 8.5 hours a day. I can't be going to Berkeley for 4 years. Like, even if they would have me, I can't afford it. And
then even at that, once you did graduate, I mean, they're not really hiring jazz musicians.
Yeah, I got to live.
This is a tough life to. It's like being a blues guy. It's like, well, okay.
I have to live in New York
Congratulations.
City to hope to get a gig playing jazz,
making $50.
Yeah, on a Wednesday.
Yeah, and as background music.
Yeah, the people are going to ignore it.
I think that's really the sad part about a lot of the jazz stuff, is that you got these guys out there playing just really cool stuff and really intricate stuff, and they're playing the Sunday brunch.
I don't
know. It seems so soul crushing.
It does, but I think I don't know. I'm almost 30, and I'm kind of at a point with music. Like, if you like it, you like it, and if you don't, I don't care. Like, I don't have the illusion that I'm going to be famous tomorrow. If I do that's the goal. The goal is always to become a career musician, to get my music to as many people as possible, just because I made it. And yeah, I made it for me, but I want other people to hear it too and tell me it's good or bad. I want to know how people will react to what I put out for myself.
Right.
And that's the goal, obviously, but that's not the purpose. Having a goal and having a purpose are two different things. And the purpose is to create it. The goal is to be successful. Do I in my heart of hearts think I'm going to wake up tomorrow and Viacom's going to sign me and it's going to be awesome and I'm going to, it's boats and hoes the rest of my life? Like, nah, man, that's probably not going to happen. But, at the same time, I can always dream that that's going to happen. But
Well, it's a goal.
It's a goal.
That's what it's something to work towards. It's something to keep you motivated in the downtimes, right?
Exactly. And I mean, what else would I do with my time? Like I have so much musical just garbage more or less in my brain all the time that I need to get out there and I need to put it down, or it drives me insane. Like I have days at work where I come up with a riff. I get there at 10. I work 10:30 to 7. I get there at 10:30, and at 10:45, I have this awesome idea for a riff.
Let's just hope it holds till 7.
Oh yeah, I do everything in my power. I go to the bathroom and like hum it out like in my phone recorder.
Phone,
yeah. So I was like, I can't lose this. And then all day, I'm just like, I gotta go home and record this. I gotta go home and record this. And it just makes your day suck. Like you just like this day is never gonna end.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine what that would be like if I wasn't recording music. Like if I was like, I'm not doing music anymore. What would I do?
Yeah,
like,
so these people, that's how people end up drinking all the time, or that's how they, or they like end up like going bowling every day, or so. It's like, they develop these weird hobbies.
Yeah, like at least with music, I can feel like I accomplished something. And I started sculpting too, and I think that was good to have like a different creative outlet so that I can like,
oh yeah, absolutely,
take a break from music for a while. And I've always tried to do that. Like, I don't know if you've ever like tried to draw or like paint or anything.
Sure,
yeah.
I did fine art, so absolutely. Man.
Yeah, so like I can't paint. I've tried so many times to paint. I can't do that. I can't draw anything. I can draw stick figures, and I can draw a really, really good poop, like the little, like the poop emoji. I can draw that perfect every time. That's all I can draw though. Like
stick figures with boobs.
Yeah, like it's an 8. It's easy, but yeah, like I have no artistic talent in that regard. So when I'm a good writer, but when I write, everything sounds like a college essay, like a dissertation. It's terrible.
Yeah.
So I started sculpting, and I'm pretty good at it. I'm good enough at it that I'm not more frustrated than I am pleased with what I do. So
yeah, that's always nice.
Yeah. So I do that in my free time when I'm like, I can go home and work on music, or I can go home and chill out and not pick up a guitar for a while. That's like the go-to.
I think for me, that's kind of why I started building guitars, was because I got frustrated with where I was in as far as the progression of what I was able to do and how far I could get and what bands I could play with. So I thought, maybe if I just start making guitars, I can still be involved in the the musical world, but maybe just in a little bit different way. I can take the things that I know and understand and apply them a little bit differently. And it's really been helpful that I can talk to musicians about not only gear, but also kind of what they want to get out of their guitar, and then I can understand that, a little bit more from the musician's perspective as opposed to just like an instrument builder's perspective. So
yeah, for sure. And I'll definitely say that, because you kind of guitar teched for me for a while, and fixed all my stuff up for me and set everything up for a long time, and I went years playing guitars with really low actions, and that was terrible because I'm way too heavy-handed with my left hand. I can't have low actions on my guitars, man. It doesn't feel good. So, and you figured that out really early on, and you would raise my action up like a quarter of an inch.
Yeah.
But that's what it felt good to play that way. Like that's what I needed, and
right.
That was a huge breakthrough in my playing style. Like especially with Late Night Zero, where I'm kind of aggressive anyway. Man, that was awesome. Like being able to play with my action to where I needed it to be, and not where the normal position was for everybody. Because
right.
Most people want a super low action because it makes you play faster, supposedly. Not for me. Like I don't need that, and I got these big meaty sausage fingers, so I don't need a super low action. I need something that's going to bite back a little bit.
Well, yeah, that's and I've found that to be true. Just whenever I do a setup for somebody, I always ask them what kind of music they play, what kind of string gauges they use, so that I can give you a proper setup to how you actually play, as opposed to just kind of like the industry standard.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to be said for having a guitar tech that really understands it from the musician's point of view, as opposed from just like a builder.
Yeah, for sure. And and that's something that like new musicians. There's so much stuff. Like I could definitely we could do a whole podcast on things new musicians should learn.
Oh yeah,
from old musicians. Like
for
us old guys, let's give you some advice.
You got to pass it down.
For real,
but, ego is involved, and so they gotta. It's like my kids; they gotta learn it themselves the hard way.
Yeah, for sure.
But then you have that eye-opening experience, like raising up your action. You're like, holy shit!
Yeah, like
this is a completely different guitar.
Yeah, how did I miss this for 15 years? Like, how did I not figure that one out? Like, come on.
And it all seems so like normal and commonplace to me. But people will bring me their guitars and they're like, man, this thing is it doesn't sound right. It plays terrible.
and I'll turn a few screws and, put a few gauges on there to see where they're at, and it's all of a sudden it's a brand new guitar for them. So
Yeah.
to me, it's like 5 minutes of work. To them, it's like life changing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's weird, but it always makes me feel good when that happens because, I'm able to help somebody on their journey a little bit and, give them the tools that they need to at least be able to express themselves a little bit better.
Yeah, for sure. And that's an important thing is when your instrument's fighting you constantly, you can't write good material. You can't, if you feel uncomfortable with what you're doing. I mean, I guess that works in a way. Like if you're an experienced musician and you want to challenge, that's good. Like do that, have a guitar that plays like crap, go to the pawn shop and buy a guitar and don't set it up.
Yeah, but at least know the difference.
Yeah, but at least you're coming from a place of experience at that point. When you're a new guitarist, if you just think this is just what it's all like, nah, man, it's like when you if you go through life needing glasses and you don't pick them out until you're like 15,
Right.
You put glasses on, you're like, whoa, there are leaves in those trees. I just thought that's just what trees were, just blobby things until I was around top of them. Like,
right. Well, yeah, and I think that's why a lot of new guitar players or people that are taking lessons, that's why they quit, is because a lot of times people will buy like a cheap guitar because they don't know if they're going to play or not. So they spend $100 and they find some piece of junk, and then their fingers hurt and their calluses aren't forming, and they're like, man, this guitar, I just can't do it. And where really it's not them. It's just the fact that they've got a turd of a guitar that plays like crap, and and then they're like, well, I can't do it. That's not necessarily true. You just kind of got to know somebody that'll help you set it up. And it's weird because there's not a lot of people out there that will give that kind of guidance and knowledge. I've found that. I mean, a lot of these guys, they work in a guitar shop. They know this stuff. Why wouldn't you tell people that?
I guess it's job security. It's like it's like they don't. Man, if I teach you how to set the guitar up, you don't need to come to me anymore. But the reality of it is
that's not true, though.
That is not true. For one, musicians are lazy.
Yeah, well, a lot of people I know really should know better and don't.
Yeah,
and that's what amazes me. I'm like, man, you've been a guitar player for 20 years and you don't know how your guitar works. It's not they think it's like this magical thing.
Yeah, this came from the heavens and here it is, and it's a mystery to me.
Yeah, I don't but it's not hard. I mean, it's wood and wires, and it's not super difficult, but I mean, I don't know, whatever. It's
inside this guitar is fairy dust and nightmares. I don't know how any of it works, and I'm not opening it.
I'm not even sure what it does.
Yeah, I don't even know what this knob does. It's just like the second toe knob on the Strat. What's that do?
Hey, well, for real, that is a mystery.
Yeah.
What the fuck does that thing do?
Who knows?
There's no noticeable change to the tone, so
it doesn't. I don't think it does anything. I think it's there because we need a third knob because there's 3 pickups. It's the aesthetic.
It's the aesthetic. We put it on there for aesthetic, but it's actually not wired in.
Yeah, well, that's like I have a Jazzmaster, and I don't know what those top controls do. Like I use it as a mute switch because I found out if I turn both the knobs in those little wheels in one direction, I can hit a button and that thing turns off. Like that's cool. I don't think that's what they wanted it for.
That's not the intended purpose, of course, but
that's what I'm going to use it for.
Nice.
And it's an internal cut, so it cuts out other than amp noise, it cuts off all the guitar sound. So that's pretty handy.
I mean, why would they do that? This is the off switch for the guitar? I mean, that makes no sense.
Yeah.
Tom Morello hadn't even been invented at that point.
Well, and even if he had, it was like one of those old Atari switches. So it's not really you can't do those cool stutters and stuff with it. It's just kind of, it's like an on-off switch on a toy for a kid. It doesn't really.
Yeah, to me is pointless.
Yeah, and some of the most famous Jazzmaster and Jaguar players put pencil erasers in it and tape over it. It's I accidentally turned my guitar off in the middle of the set, so I put a pencil eraser in there so that shit doesn't happen anymore.
At least they figured out what it was.
Yeah,
they didn't take it to the tech and be like, it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know what I did to it.
Yeah, I can imagine Johnny Marr being like, it doesn't work anymore. I wish that I had a huge platform. I wish that I was a super famous musician, and I would pay everyone 50 cents to give me, every person that owns a Jazzmaster, 50 cents. When have you ever used the jazz tone circuit in your Jazzmaster for anything other than turning it off?
Yeah.
When have you used that? Because I want to tell you right now, it sounds like shit no matter how you use it. It doesn't sound good. I've played with it for an hour at least. When I first got it, I was like, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to be that guy. I was not that guy. You can't make it sound good. It sounds
conquered everyone.
It sounds like you put a wet blanket on your amp. And Fender figured it out finally. The new they had a model, a line of American's Futures, I think they're called, or something like that, and they don't have that. They don't have any. They have 2 volume knobs, or volume tone knob, master volume, master tone, 3-way switch, done.
Okay, man. I think we're gonna wrap it up here. But hey, it was really great talking to you tonight. I really appreciate you coming down. And it's, as always, I have a great time talking to you. You're such a cool dude, and I wish you the best in all your future projects. And we'll do it again sometime.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thanks
Thanks,
for having
man.
me.
All right, see you, buddy.
Bye.